Hey everybody, this is Perch. I had this recent kind of revelation. I would not consider myself the biggest Spider-Man fan. Of the comics I would collect, that was not the one I really kind of attached myself to. But I like Spider-Man. I especially like Spider-Man when it's written well. If you look back at the Craven's Last Hunt, and I mean that's the comic storyline I know, and a lot of people kind of gravitate to. But it was such a good story. Um, anyway, kind of Mike Zeck art and all that kind of stuff. That was like whenever somebody says like comics should not cross over, somewhere in the back of my head, I'm like, no, no, the comics, crossovers in comics can be a good thing. I have a lot of fond memories of crossovers in comics, and Craven's Last Hunt is always one of those that kind of sticks in my head. I'm thinking like that was a great crossover, a great comic. Um, and yeah, I recognize that that blinds me a little bit to all the terrible crossovers and other things that have happened over the years. But anyway, I'm not a big Spider-Man fan. I've enjoyed those stories. They're fine, but there's lots of other comics, Marvel, DC, Indies, plenty of others I would put over Spider-Man. But I have stayed connected to Spider-Man over the years. And I think that's kind of a testament to the fact that, Spider-Man for Marvel, Batman for DC, these are characters that even if you're not big fans of, you wind up staying connected to them anyway. But anyway, we're heading up to Spider-Man 1000, which in theory you would expect Marvel to do a, somewhat of a big deal for. We'll see. But here's a letter asking about what should happen for Spider-Man 1000, what's possible to happen, and then we can speculate it as a friend, as a family here, the family of the Perch Show. Yeah, why not? Um, I'll say one other thing. By the way, I get a lot of emails from people who say things like, "Hey, I'm living in Bosnia. I'm living in Argentina." Um, and I'm working and I listen to the Perch Show while I'm working. I love how this show does not have a major audience. This show is not the critical drinker of YouTube. But it's got some loyal people who have stuck with it. And I wish if there was anything, I wish I could just like shrink the audience to the people who really, this kind of community of people who listen all the time. I would love to just keep talking to you. I've met people at conventions. I met like a couple people at the Dallas Fan Expo last year in 2024. And like, they were like, oh man, I listen to that every day. And I recognize your voice and everything. And I love those people, whoever you are out there. I love you guys. You're the audience. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. Anyway, here's a mail. And it says, hey, Perch, I have only one question for you. At this point, what the hell can Marvel do to make Amazing Spider-Man an event book? Like a book worthy of paying $20 for, because you sure as hell know that's what they're going to do to charge for it. He's talking about Amazing Spider-Man 1000, the anniversary issue. I've been scratching my head thinking what creative team even exists right now that can create heat for this book. The only thing I think that will sell the book and make it something worthy of the event would be Todd McFarlane's return to the title. Yeah. Sure. By the way, the short answer to this is Marvel's going to sell the shit out of Spider-Man with a non-creative team. They're going to rely on the anniversary issue. They're not going to really care about, who's on the book and who's not. Anyway, it says, sure, there have been amazing artists that have worked on Spider-Man, but they've been working on the book for the last 30 years. Are they really going to generate the same kind of heat for issue 1000 that a Todd McFarlane could? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. What do you think Marvel could do to make Amazing Spider-Man 1000 an interesting book? And how likely could it be that Marvel could convince Todd to do something with Spider-Man again? P.S. I used to listen to many YouTube channels, and now I listen to two. You're one of the two. Well, who's the other one? It's Sasha, right? Sasha gets all the cool stuff. Anyway, on one hand, people have told me, well, if you just showed your face, you would have as many subscribers as Sasha. But on the other hand, have you seen my face? Sasha has a better looking face than me. I, there's no doubt about it. Anyway, PPS, another postscript. I think Marvel is crazy if they don't choose a team like Daniel Warren Johnson and Jorge Corona to do a run on Spider-Man after 1000. Issue 1000 could be the biggest jumping off point in history, if otherwise. All right. So we're talking Amazing Spider-Man 1000. It's an anniversary issue. In theory, that should be a big deal for Spider-Man. And it will be, because Marvel will do a bunch of variant covers, and they'll do a big, like, in this issue the Green Goblin turns into a villain again, and that's kind of what it's going to be as a comic. In theory, Joe Kelly will be on the book during that time period, unless that run is very short. So that's probably what we're leading up to, and what we're going to get. Um, I guess the first point in all this is, what do you want an Amazing Spider-Man 1000 to be? And if you're Marvel, what you're going to say is you want it to be an anniversary, a celebration, which means you're going to go down the route of, a collection of stories celebrating the long history and legacy of Spider-Man from the perspective of the current editorial staff and leaders at Marvel, who believe they know what Spider-Man is like, i.e., Nick Lowe commissioning stories that celebrate what Spider-Man is like. But I'm not sure that Nick Lowe really understands what Spider-Man is and what he should be and what those stories should encompass. I wouldn't be surprised if Marvel will kind of half-ass reach out to Todd McFarlane to try and do something. I definitely could see them making that attempt. But at the end of the day, I don't think, Todd's not going to come back to Spider-Man for this. It would be kind of fun if he did. But here's the thing. If you're talking about an anniversary issue, an issue that's going to be remembered. Remember, I started off this video by saying how much fond memories I have of things like Kraven's Last Hunt and stories like that. Spider-Man being memorable is tough. And I think if you want that title to be really memorable, really meaningful, really there's only one storyline that you can pull at this point. And I know all of you already know what it is. It's like, you got to get Peter and MJ back together again. The funny part is, in order to have a storyline for Spider-Man that really is going to be a lasting memory, you've got to do a story not about Spider-Man. You got to do a story about Peter Parker. And, you could do lots of gimmicks. You can bring Gwen Stacy back to life. You can bring Uncle Ben back to life. You can fuck around with all that stuff. But the problem is, you've done that before many, many times. Like, it's not like for the first time we're going to see what the world would be like if Gwen Stacy was back in Peter's life. We know what that world would be like. We've had that world. There's I guess she doesn't have an ongoing title anymore. She's in that TVA book, but you have Spider-Gwen in a comic right now. During the AXE, the Avengers X-Men Eternals battle, you had Peter Parker have to face Gwen Stacy. Like, you've gone to that well so many times. You can't do it. You've also gone to the same well with Uncle Ben. You have in the Spider-Verse an actual Spider-Man Uncle Ben running around. Like, you have all these things. So it really won't have any kind of impact. The only thing that really will have an impact, because you've had anniversary issues before, you brought back Doc Ock, you've done Clone Saga stuff, you've done Ben Reilly stuff, you've done Green Goblin stuff several times. The only thing you really have left is MJ, Peter, the love that is destined for all time, being restored. You've got to have, like, Paul turn out to be a serial killer, and MJ, I don't know. You got to give some MJ agency. You can't have MJ just be a helpless victim and have Peter save her. You got to have her kind of save herself, but in doing so, also crack the spell of Mephisto and have the two of them come back together. I don't know. That's the only thing that matters. And I would take that, drawn by an absolute schlub, a writer and artist, somebody who, has no legacy at all with Spider-Man. I'd rather have the storyline of the return of MJ into Peter's life and kind of the restoration of the marriage and everything else. I'd rather have that than Todd McFarlane do a special story for Spider-Man. Todd doing a story for Spider-Man would be fun. You could do it. I don't think Todd would do it. Eric Larson would do it, which is like halfway there. You could have that happen, but in general, you need to have a story that really counts and matters in the memories of people. But you know, they'll do either one of two things. Either they're going to do a story that you've seen before, i.e., Norman Osborn snaps and becomes Peter's greatest villain and like kills somebody close to Peter. Like, I don't know, is Betty Brant still alive? You could kill her off. Something like that. That's more than likely what Marvel will do. They will return Norman Osborn, the arch nemesis of Peter Parker, Green Goblin, to his evil ways, and he'll become the greatest threat ever. If I was putting money down on what the anniversary issue would be like, I would say it would be that. The runner-up would be just a collection of short stories talking about how Peter is like trying to get to his date, but he can't quite get to his date because villainy keeps happening, and he's just fucking around. That Parker luck keeps him from being laid, and he just he can't quite get to his date because he's dealing with bullshit villains. Like that's the other odds-on favorite for what's going to happen with Spider-Man. There is an almost zero chance that they will do the storyline with MJ, even though it's entirely clear that more than any other comic, no other comic has this going on. No other relationship. Clark, Superman, is with Lois today. Batman has this relationship with Catwoman, but that is still not the same level as Peter and MJ. Mary Jane and Peter Parker, the love that survives all odds, involvement from the devil, everything else. This is the love story conclusion that almost every comic book fan wants to have. And because of that, Marvel will never give it to you. That's what Spider-Man 1000 needs to be. Anything other than that, it will come and pass. Issue will come out, and then the next issue will be like, Spider-Man's dealing with, the speed demon is stealing some shit, and that White Rabbit character's working for Tombstone, and they're doing something. I don't know. That's where we're headed. For a period of time, Marvel, which is absolutely in the dregs of malaise, of just comics that are coming out, but does anyone care? Desperately needs to just lean into a bunch of stuff that fans want to see. What's crazy about this, and this is a video for another time, is fans want to see Peter and MJ. Fans want to desperately see Kitty Pryde and Colossus. I mean, I know that's an old storyline, but that's what they want to see. Okay. Fans, in many ways, and by the way, it's not all about straight white people getting together. I think a lot of fans would be into Hulkling and Wiccan, actually doing shit, not just hanging out in space as some kind of royal couple where nothing happens. Fans want to see these core stories with characters that we've been taught to love and care about and, wonder what happens. That's what fans want. And the best way to celebrate an anniversary issue with like Spider-Man 1000, give fans what they want. Like, do a little bit of fan service. It's not the end of the world. You will not get an STD from doing it. Just try it. Enjoy the sales. And hell, if you get Spider-Man, MJ together and you get Todd McFarlane to draw it, fucking A. Why not? Thanks for listening.